Namaste. What is the difference between a real versus a conditioned desire? Why is that important to know? Because manifestation has become very popular nowadays. In fact, it all started with the law of attraction. And by the way, the same author wrote another book where she's now talking about non-duality, and she's understanding even further the real implications of attraction and how you really get something to manifest. If you have been following me, I recommend, and you haven't seen some of the previous videos, I'm going to start going deeper because I want to take you in an evolution in this channel. Because my goal is to help you, if it is within you, if it is your utmost desire, to help you have a true awakening. That's my goal. This is not for everybody though, I realize that. So start using your intuition. Your intuition, by the way, can only be found in the moment, in the present moment. It's not a time-based thing, by the way, intuition. Intuition is only presence. So immediately when you have stopped and you've dropped the story of the little me, and again, please go back to the little videos. I talked so much about that, the little me and the conditioning and the programming. I don't want to go into that too much more because, as I mentioned, I want to keep an evolution. So if you're still not clear about that, please stop this video and be very, very clear about that. And if you're still not clear, send me an email or write on the comments so I can explain, because that's the only reason I have this channel, is to help you. So a real desire comes from the only thing that exists, which is very obvious once you see it, and that is the present moment. The present moment is a timeless reality. It's the only reality. And you are that reality. Not you as the person, not you as the mind, not you as the identity. When you drop all of that, you see that all there is here is just conscious, present awareness. There's just awareness of everything. A simple term is awareness, which just points to what this reality is. You've always been this reality the whole time. What spiritual awakening is a deconstruction of the false me that's happened over time with belief systems, dogmas, etc., and it's solidified the nature of the projection or the idea that you have of who you are, realizing that it's just an idea, it's a thought, it's an energy movement. You give it life by putting your attention on it and by labeling it, by giving it names. You create an identity, but the identity is fictitious. It's always been fictitious, and it's only existed here. You hypnotize yourself. You hypnotize yourself away from this present moment when you're lost in thought. When you're referring to the psychological me, you hypnotize yourself. You're always here. You just don't realize that. You're in your mind. You're in the paradigm of concepts, which is fully contrived, which is fully made up. And that's one of the first big awakenings you would have, if you haven't had that already, is that when you realize that, it totally drops. That identity just disappears pretty much because you realize it was never you. And all you're left with is the beauty, the serenity, the peace of the truth of who you are, which is only to be found right now in this moment. You've always been it. It's just been masqueraded by the fictitious little me. And the idea that you have of who you are has been suffering from a lot of its own ideas, its own projections throughout this life. So realize how abstract the idea you have of who you are, because it doesn't even directly suffer. It suffers from its own projections, and it itself is a made-up phenomenon. And that's what we're suffering from. So when you realize that, it's amazing. But let's go back to the theme of manifestation, because I know that's so popular. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with any of this. This is all a play. This is all a play. And once you see it from that perspective and you fully wake up to the truth of who you are beyond the psychological, conceptual, mind-made little me, in other words, ego, which is totally fictitious and drives your life, most of us, until you wake up to it. You realize then, once you wake up, that all there is just this present moment, and your identity goes from mental to heart. In other words, you become fully conscious and intuitive. Your intuition, it goes off the roof. And it's a much wiser intelligence your intuition than your mind, because your mind is the intelligence of the mind is just conditioned, because it's conditioned through language and words, and that's what's you learn. You weren't born that way, were you? Of course not. You're not born with words. Remember, you're not born learning a vocabulary. It's from the vocabulary and words and the semantics, phonology, phonetics that we get into that. But again, watch previous videos. I explain all about that. So, once you are doing self-inquiry, once you found out a little bit more of who you are, and self-inquiry, that's really, in my experience, and again, only speak from my experience, that's really what did it for me the first big time. Because I was looking for the one who was suffering. And I just sat down quietly. I observed with detachment, meaning I surrendered. Observe with detachment means you surrender first. Surrender whatever is going on. Why? Because you are surrendering to the resistance. If you're not feeling too good, the first thing you should do is just surrender to the feeling. That does not mean you're accepting the feeling. That means you're surrendering to whatever the feeling is causing. Because the minute you do that, you drop the resistance. And that means it's like a sigh of relief. It's like, oh. Now you can observe it. Because if you're entangled in that web of mind identification and that conceptually contrived paradigm that you've taken to be you, which is just a thought, it's just a thought. It is just a thought. It's coming and going the whole time. It doesn't have any permanence. It's another sign that it's not real. It's not permanent. But this reality is permanent. But thoughts are not. Emotions are not. Everything you've thought about is not. Everything you've thought about is not permanent. Comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. Anything that is not permanent is actually not real. Wow. Yeah. It's a big one. I told you I'm going to start going more advanced. Eckhart Tolle says the greatest difficulty is the mental resistance to things that arise and the underlying assumption that they should not. So imagine, with the law of attraction, if you want to manifest something, say you want to manifest a big house. If you're manifesting from your conditioned me, that's not a true desire, because that's been a conditioned desire in you. So you are trying to manifest something that you think will make you happy, because you've been taught to believe that it will. So what ends up happening? You're trying to satisfy the little me. You're trying to satisfy a fiction. I'm going to say that again. You are trying to satisfy a fiction. No wonder it's never happy. How can you make a fiction happy? How can you make something that's fundamentally not real, which is your little me, the mind-body concept, the idea you have of who you are, which is just an idea, it's always changing. How can you ever make that happy? Do you see the fundamental flaw? And this is not even spiritual, this is just pure logic. It's not even nothing to do really spiritual awakening, even though it does. But it's just pure logic. You can't fundamentally please an illusion. It's an illusion. The idea you have of yourself is an illusion. What is an illusion? An illusion is something that doesn't have permanent reality. All of your thoughts, none of your thoughts have permanent reality. You're not thinking 24/7 the same thought with the same intensity, the same level. No, they're changing the whole time. Some days you feel good, some days you feel bad. Some days you feel stressed, some days you feel relaxed. So who is the real you? Unless you go to your mind and you start saying, well, I'm usually no, that's a story. Drop it. How has that story served you? This used to be my story. Oh, life sucks, I'm really depressed. It's a total story. Who is depressed? Whose life sucks? Me. Who is me? Look for this me. Look for this me. It's just an assumption that you have. There's actually somebody there, but there's nobody there. Look for it. Where is this me? Look for it. There's just presence here. There's just awareness. Unless you start thinking about something, there is no me here. Do self-inquiry, my friends. It's going to help you so much, so much. And if you want more help about self-inquiry, again, email me, drop a comment, let me know how I can help. So Tolle talks about that mental resistance with the assumption that they should not. He's obviously pointing to that conditioning. We assume, based on our programming, that things should be in a certain way. But because our programming revolves around the fiction of a little me, because through conditioning by the repetition of your name, the word you've heard the most in your life is your name. So it's very deeply conditioned, right? So when you are in that state of flow, which is you're in a state of presence, that means you are in alignment with the universe and the totality of all existence. That's why it's so bloody blissful. I'll say it again. When you are fully present and aware of yourself as pure conscious awareness, you are then merged within the totality of the universe. And the fabricated me has no place there, because it's a time-based mental phenomena. So when you manifest from this level of presence, that's where your power is, don't you see? And then you can align yourself with your true desires. We all have desires and fears. The fears pretty much belong to the person. Because once you wake up, you realize you have no form. You are a formless consciousness. You're just formless consciousness. There's no fear of anything. It's just incredible. Sure, the mind, because of its deep programming in this body mind, and because this body mind had struggled so much, which was my saving grace. Little did I know when it's went before. Because of that, once in a while, there's a little, it's just like on a tiny, I start to see that person starting to, but it's seen this quick. It has no more power. The power source of the little person has been cut. The power source, your power, is your attention. So when you drop your attention, and that's why I want the quickest way, because non-duality, spiritual awakening, realizing your true self, all of that, the more direct, the better. The better. I shouldn't even be talking this much. So I want to make it super, super, super direct. It's so easy to start taka and go on. So that's why super, super direct. Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, says, that which offers no resistance overcomes the hardest substances. That which offers no resistance overcomes the hardest substances. That's from chapter 43 of the Tao Te Ching. Stunning. Beautiful book. Please read it if you haven't. It's amazing. So much wisdom. So much wisdom. Yeah, I love that. That which offers no resistance overcomes the hardest substances. So when you're in the state of flow, you're not offering any resistance to life itself. Then you're flowing with the life just like the current of the river. There is no resistance. And then you start to realize the only resistance that ever happened was your projection, the idea of who you were, the idea you have of who you are, creates its own fictitious resistance based on its conditioning. So the resistance is not even original. Do you see that? So if you really want to manifest, step one, find out who you are first, so that you can manifest with authenticity and not manifest in a proxy way, so to speak, by a contrived, made-up idea you have of who you are based on your conditioning and programming. Because when you manifest from there, that's not your true desires. Those are your programmed desires, my friends. Bless you. Have a beautiful day.